Story 1. I work as an event coordinator for Westfield Shopping Center. Been doing it for about 2 years now after my marketing degree didn't land me the corporate job I'd hoped for. The pay isn't amazing, but I get to plan fun community events and work with local businesses. Plus, the mall gives me a decent employee discount. My job involves everything from coordinating seasonal displays to organizing charity drives and community events. I've handled everything from pet adoption days to local band performances. Most events go smoothly, but you always have to expect the unexpected when dealing with the public. That Saturday, we were hosting our monthly Family Fun Day in the main courtyard. It's always popular. We set up bounce houses, face painting stations, and local vendors selling crafts and treats. The highlight is always our talent show where kids can perform songs, dances, or magic tricks. Parents love it, kids have fun, and the mall gets good foot traffic. I was running sound for the talent show when she approached me. Well-dressed woman in her 50s, perfectly styled blonde hair, designer everything. She had this pinched expression like she'd been sucking on lemons all morning. Karen, excuse me, are you in charge of this event? Me, yes, I'm the event coordinator. Is there something I can help you with? Karen, this is absolutely unacceptable. These strollers are everywhere, blocking pathways and creating a safety hazard. I looked around the courtyard. Yeah, there were quite a few strollers since it was, a family event. Parents had parked them along the edges of our seating area, and most were being pretty considerate about placement. Me, I understand it can seem crowded, but we've tried to keep pathways clear. If you see a specific safety issue, I can address it. Karen, the entire concept is the problem. Strollers should be banned from this mall completely. They're a nuisance. Me, well, this is a family-friendly shopping center, so strollers are pretty necessary for parents with young children. Karen, parents managed fine before strollers became trendy. They can carry their children or leave them at home. I blinked at her, not sure if she was serious. Around us, families were enjoying the event, kids were laughing on the bounce house, and everything seemed perfectly normal. Me, I'm sorry you feel that way, but strollers are allowed in the mall. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to get back to the sound system. She huffed and walked away. I thought that was the end of it and went back to setting up for the next performer, a 7-year-old who wanted to sing a Disney song. The little girl climbed up on our small portable stage, and I handed her the wireless microphone. She was so excited, practically bouncing with nerves. I gave her an encouraging smile and stepped back to the soundboard. That's when Karen struck. She rushed onto the stage, snatched the microphone right out of the little girl's hands, and pushed her aside. The kid stumbled and started crying. Parents in the audience gasped and jumped to their feet. Karen, attention everyone. I need to address a serious safety issue. I immediately started moving toward the stage, but she was already in full rant mode. Karen, these strollers everywhere are creating dangerous conditions. Children could be injured. Adults could trip and fall. The mall management needs to implement an immediate ban on all strollers. The crowd was getting agitated. Parents were shouting at her to get off the stage. The little girl was still crying, and her mom had rushed over to comfort her. Me, ma'am, you need to return that microphone and leave the stage immediately. Karen, I have the right to voice my concerns about public safety. Someone needs to hear this. Parent in crowd, lady, you just made a kid cry. Get down from there. Another parent, who do you think you are? I climbed onto the stage and reached for the microphone, but Karen turned away, continuing her bizarre speech. Karen, parents today are too lazy to carry their own children. These wheeled contraptions are cluttering our public spaces and... That's when mall security arrived. 2 officers who'd been patrolling heard the commotion and came running. They didn't waste time asking questions. They saw a woman who'd clearly hijacked our event and was upsetting families. Security officer, ma'am, you need to come with us. Karen, I'm exercising my freedom of speech. Security officer, not on private property, you're not. Hand over the microphone. She finally surrendered it. but kept arguing as they escorted her away from the stage. I quickly got back on the microphone to calm everyone down. Me, sorry folks, let's get back to our talent show. Who wants to hear this young lady sing her song? The crowd cheered, and the little girl wiped her tears and took the microphone again. She absolutely nailed her performance of Let It Go, and everyone gave her a huge round of applause. After the event, I learned from security that Karen had been banned from the mall for 6 months. Apparently, this wasn't her first complaint about strollers. She'd been harassing store managers and other shoppers for weeks about it. The best part? 2 days later, the mall put up new signs specifically welcoming families and advertising our stroller-friendly amenities. Management was so appalled by what happened that they wanted to make it crystal clear that families were not only welcome but actively encouraged. Karen never did get her stroller ban. She did get herself banned instead. Story 2. I'm 17, and this was my first real job. I'd been working at this family steakhouse for about 3 months to save money for college. My parents couldn't afford to help much with tuition, so I was working nights and weekends while finishing high school. The tips weren't amazing, but every dollar counted. I was generally good at the job. I learned to handle difficult customers with a smile, even when they were rude or impatient. My manager always said I had good instincts for dealing with people, which made me think about maybe studying hospitality management in college. That Saturday night started like any other busy weekend. The restaurant was packed, and I was handling my section of 6 tables. I was running around taking orders, bringing food, refilling drinks. Everything was going smoothly until she walked in. She was probably in her late 30s, dressed up like she was going somewhere fancy after dinner. She had this attitude from the moment she sat down, snapping her fingers at me when I was helping another table. "Karen, waiter, over here." I finished taking my other table's order and went to her. "Me, sorry about the wait. What can I get started for you tonight?" "Karen, I want your best steak. Medium rare, and it better be perfect." "Me, our ribeye is really popular. It comes with your choice of potato and vegetable." "Karen, fine. Baked potato, no vegetables. They're disgusting." "Me, absolutely. Anything to drink?" "Karen, water. With lemon. Fresh lemon, not those dried up pieces you probably have sitting around." I put in her order and made sure the kitchen knew she wanted everything perfect. Our head cook was experienced and rarely made mistakes, so I wasn't worried. About 20 minutes later, her steak came out. It looked perfect to me, a beautiful medium rare ribeye with a fluffy baked potato. I brought it to her table with a smile. "Me, here's your ribeye, cooked medium rare. Is there anything else I can get you?" She stared at the steak for a long moment, then looked up at me with this weird expression. "Karen, this steak is looking at me funny." I wasn't sure I heard her correctly. "Me, I'm sorry, what was that?" "Karen, the steak, it's looking at me. See how it's positioned on the plate? It's mocking me." I looked at the steak. It was just a steak, sitting normally on a plate. "Me, I'm not sure I understand. Would you like me to have the kitchen reposition it?" "Karen, don't get smart with me, kid. This steak has an attitude problem, just like you." Other customers were starting to notice the conversation getting weird. I tried to stay professional. "Me, I can ask the kitchen to prepare you a new steak if you're not satisfied with this one." "Karen, I don't want a new steak. I want this one to stop looking at me." She was getting louder now. My manager noticed from across the restaurant and started walking over. "Me, ma'am, I'm really not sure what you'd like me to do. It's just a piece of meat on a plate." That's when she completely lost it. She picked up the steak with her bare hands and threw it directly at my face. The hot meat hit my cheek and the sauce splattered across my uniform. Then she grabbed the baked potato and threw that too, hitting me in the chest. "Karen, maybe that'll teach you some respect." The entire restaurant went silent. I stood there with steak sauce dripping down my face, completely shocked. I was 17 years old, just trying to do my job, and this grown woman had thrown food at me over nothing. Customer 1, what is wrong with you? Customer 2, that's just a kid. My manager rushed over immediately. Manager, ma'am, you need to leave right now. Karen, I'm not going anywhere. This little brat was being disrespectful. Manager, you just threw food at my employee. I'm calling the police. Karen, the steak was looking at me wrong. He should have fixed it. Other customers were pulling out their phones. A family at the next table had been recording since she started yelling. Customer 3, lady, you're completely insane. It's a piece of meat. Karen, you people don't understand good service. The police arrived within minutes. Multiple customers gave statements about what they witnessed. The family with the video showed it to the officers. Officer 1, ma'am, you're under arrest for assault and disturbing the peace. Karen, assault? I threw food, not a weapon. Officer 2, throwing objects at someone is assault, especially at a minor. As they handcuffed her, she kept ranting about the steak having an attitude. The other customers were shaking their heads in disbelief. The video went viral within hours. People shared it everywhere with captions like Karen versus the steak and woman loses it over meat's facial expression. She became an internet laughingstock. My manager comped meals for the customers who witnessed everything and gave me the rest of the night off with pay. The next week, corporate gave me a bonus and a letter of commendation for handling the situation professionally. Karen had to pay a fine and attend mandatory mental health counseling. She was also banned from the restaurant chain permanently. The best part? She tried to leave a bad review online, claiming the steak was aggressive. Everyone who read it just laughed at her more. Story 3. I've been living in this neighborhood for about 2 years now, ever since I got my job at the local auto repair shop. It's a quiet street with decent people, and I never had any problems until she moved in next door about 8 months ago. I work early shifts, so I'm usually home by 4 in the afternoon. My driveway is pretty narrow, and sometimes when I'm tired after a long day, I don't pull all the way up. I park maybe a foot or two from the property line, but still completely on my side. Never thought it would be an issue since there's plenty of room for people to walk by. The woman next door made it clear pretty quickly that she had opinions about everything. She's one of those people who thinks the whole neighborhood revolves around her schedule and preferences. The first sign of trouble was when she started leaving passive-aggressive notes on my windshield. The notes started simple enough. Please be more considerate of postal delivery access. Then they got weirder. Your vehicle placement disrupts the mail carrier's energy flow. I honestly thought someone was pranking me at first. About a month ago, she decided to confront me directly. I was getting out of my car after work when she marched over with this determined look on her face. Karen, we need to talk about your parking situation. Me, what parking situation? I park in my own driveway. Karen, you're too close to my mailbox. The mail carrier has to walk around your car, and it's creating inefficiencies in the postal system. Me, the mail carrier is fine. I've seen him deliver mail plenty of times. He just walks normally. Karen, that's not the point. There are federal regulations about mailbox access. I've done my research. I tried to explain that I was parked on my own property and wasn't blocking anything, but she kept talking about postal service disruption and federal mail tampering laws. It was like arguing with someone who lived in a completely different reality. The next week, she escalated. I came home to find orange traffic cones placed along the curb near her mailbox, creating this weird barrier that extended about 6 feet in each direction. Me, you can't put cones on a public street. Karen, these cones are protecting federal postal infrastructure. Anyone who moves them is interfering with government operations. Me, that's not how any of this works. Karen, I've contacted the postal inspector's office. They're very interested in this situation. The cones disappeared after 3 days, probably because other neighbors complained or the city removed them. But she wasn't done. Last Friday, I had to work a double shift because we were short-staffed. I got home around 10 at night, exhausted, and parked maybe 18 inches from the property line. Still completely on my side, still not blocking anything, but closer than usual because I was tired. Saturday morning, I walked outside to grab my newspaper and nearly had a heart attack. Someone had spray-painted "No Parking Male Zone" in huge red letters across the driver's side of my car. I immediately knew it was her, but I needed proof. I knocked on her door, and she answered with this smug expression like she was expecting me. Me, did you spray paint my car? Karen, I protected the postal delivery zone from illegal parking violations. Me, you vandalized my car. That's gonna cost hundreds of dollars to fix. Karen, the cost of mail disruption to the entire neighborhood is far greater. I did what needed to be done. She actually admitted it. I couldn't believe she was just standing there, proud of what she'd done. Me, I'm calling the police. Karen, go ahead. They'll thank me for upholding federal postal regulations. Officer Johnson arrived about 20 minutes later. When I showed him my car and explained what happened, he looked genuinely confused. Officer Johnson, ma'am, did you spray paint this vehicle? Karen, I marked an illegal parking zone that was disrupting mail delivery. Officer Johnson, this car is parked on private property. There's no parking violation here. Karen, but the mailbox access requirements clearly state. Officer Johnson, ma'am, you can't spray paint someone's car. That's vandalism. She spent 15 minutes trying to convince the officer that she was some kind of postal service deputy enforcing federal law. He kept explaining that painting someone's car was a crime regardless of her reasoning. Karen, I demand to speak to the postal inspector. This officer doesn't understand mail delivery law. Officer Johnson, you're under arrest for vandalism. The best part came later. When I filed an insurance claim for the paint damage, the adjuster mentioned that vandalism claims sometimes trigger investigations for repeat offenses. Turns out, she had been reported 3 times in her previous neighborhood for similar postal enforcement activities, including putting superglue in someone's car door locks. Her landlord evicted her after the arrest made the local news. The story was too weird not to share. Local woman arrested for spray painting car in mailbox protection scheme. My new neighbor is a retired teacher who bakes cookies and minds her own business. Sometimes I park a little closer to the property line just because I can. And you know what happens? The mail gets delivered perfectly fine, just like it always did. Story 4. I've been working as a train conductor for the regional rail service for about 5 years now. I started this job right after college because I needed steady work, and honestly, I've always loved trains. There's something satisfying about keeping everything running on schedule and helping people get where they need to go. Most passengers are pretty understanding when delays happen, but every now and then you get someone who thinks the entire transit system should bend to their personal needs. Last Thursday was one of those days. It was the 4:30 p.m. train from downtown to the suburbs, packed with commuters heading home from work. We were actually running on time for once, which felt like a small miracle. I was doing my usual rounds, checking tickets and making announcements about upcoming stops. At Central Station, this woman got on. She was maybe in her 50s, carrying multiple shopping bags and talking loudly on her phone. She found a seat near the middle of the car and continued her conversation at a volume that made it impossible for anyone to ignore. Karen, no, I told you I'd be there by 6. The train better not mess this up. I didn't think much of it at first. People complain about transit all the time. But as we approached Mill Creek Station, she suddenly stood up and started walking toward me. Karen, excuse me, conductor person. Me, yes, ma'am, how can I help you? Karen, I need you to make an extra stop. Me, I'm sorry, what do you mean? Karen, my cousin lives near Riverside Drive, about 2 miles past Mill Creek. I need you to stop the train there so I can get off. I thought she was joking at first, but her expression was completely serious. Me, ma'am, We only stop at designated stations. Riverside Drive isn't a station stop. Karen, well, it should be. My cousin is having a family emergency, and I need to get there quickly. Me, I understand, but trains can only stop at official stations for safety and legal reasons. Mill Creek is coming up in about 5 minutes. You could take a taxi or rideshare from there. Karen, a taxi. Do you know how much that would cost? This is ridiculous. The train started slowing down as we approached Mill Creek Station. I could see other passengers getting ready to exit and board. Me, ma'am, if you're getting off at Mill Creek, you'll need to move toward the doors. Karen, I already told you, I'm not getting off at Mill Creek. I'm getting off at Riverside Drive. The train came to a complete stop, and the doors opened. Several passengers got off, and a few new ones got on. But this woman planted herself right in the doorway, holding her shopping bags on either side to block anyone from passing. Me, ma'am, you need to either exit or move away from the doors. We have a schedule to maintain. Karen, I'm not moving until you agree to stop at Riverside Drive. Other passengers started getting annoyed. There were people trying to board who couldn't get past her. Male passenger, lady, move out of the way. Karen, mind your own business. This conductor needs to do his job properly. I tried to reason with her again. Me, ma'am, I literally cannot stop the train anywhere except designated stations. It's not just company policy, it's the law. Karen, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Buses make extra stops all the time. Me, buses and trains operate completely differently. Now please step aside so other passengers can board. But she just stood there, arms crossed, blocking the doorway. The platform conductor was trying to motion people around her, but it was causing chaos. Our departure time came and went. Karen, I'm not moving until you fix this situation. That's when I had to radio dispatch. Me, control. This is train 447. We have a passenger blocking the doors at Mill Creek Station. Dispatch, copy that. Transit police are en route. Karen, police? For what? I'm just trying to get to my family emergency. Me, you're preventing the train from operating and blocking other passengers. That's illegal. Karen, this is harassment. I'm going to sue this whole train company. Within 10 minutes, 2 transit police officers boarded the train. By this point, we were 15 minutes behind schedule, and passengers were getting really angry. Officer, ma'am, you need to exit the train immediately. Karen, finally, someone with authority. Tell this conductor to stop at Riverside Drive. Officer, ma'am, that's not a station. You're disrupting public transportation. Please step off the train. Karen, I demand to speak to your supervisor. Officer, you can do that at the station office. Let's go. They had to physically escort her off the train while she kept yelling about her rights and her family emergency. The whole car erupted in applause once she was gone. Later, I found out she was charged with disrupting public transportation and causing a public disturbance. Turns out her family emergency was her cousin's birthday party, and she'd simply gotten confused about which station was closest to the house. The kicker? There was actually a bus stop right near Riverside Drive that she could have taken from Mill Creek Station. She just hadn't bothered to check. Story 5. I've been coaching Little League Baseball for 8 years now. Started when my oldest kid joined the team, and I just never stopped. I love working with these kids, seeing them improve, teaching them about teamwork and sportsmanship. But last Saturday's game against the Cardinals was something I'll never forget. Let me back up a bit. This season we had a really solid team of 9 and 10-year-olds. Most of these kids had been playing together for a couple years, so they knew each other well. One kid on our team, let's call him Jake, was having a tough season. He's a sweet kid, tries really hard, but baseball just wasn't clicking for him yet. He'd struck out in probably 15 of his last 20 at-bats. The other kids were supportive though, always cheering him on. Jake's mom Karen had been getting more and more frustrated as the season went on. She'd sit in the stands making comments about how the other team's pitcher was cheating, how the umpire was biased, how I wasn't giving Jake enough coaching. I tried talking to her a few times about keeping things positive for Jake's sake, but she always insisted she was just advocating for her son. Saturday's game was our last of the regular season. We were tied 4-4 in the bottom of the 6th inning. Jake came up to bat with 2 outs and a runner on second. The kid had been working really hard in practice all week on his swing. The first pitch came in a little high, but Jake swung anyway and missed. Strike 1. From the stands, I could hear Karen yelling at the umpire about the strike zone. The second pitch was right down the middle, and Jake fouled it off. Good contact, I was proud of him for that. Then came the third pitch. Jake swung and made solid contact. The ball flew toward right field, and for a second I thought it might be his first hit in weeks. But the right fielder was positioned perfectly and caught it easily for the third out. Game over. We lost 4-4 because we couldn't score that runner from second. Jake looked disappointed, but not devastated. He'd made good contact, which was progress. I was walking over to shake hands with the other coach when I heard yelling from behind me. Karen had jumped over the low fence and was marching across the infield toward home plate. "Karen, that's not fair. That ball was clearly foul. My son deserves another chance." The umpire, who'd been packing up his gear, looked completely bewildered. The other team's players and coaches stopped their celebration to stare at this woman stomping across their field. "Ma'am, you need to get off the field. The game is over." "Karen, no, that umpire made a bad call. Jake hit that ball foul, and everyone knows it." "Umpire, ma'am, the ball was clearly fair when the batter made contact. It was a clean catch." "Karen, you people don't know what you're talking about. My Jake should get to bat again." By now, both teams' parents had gathered along the fence line, watching this spectacle unfold. Jake was standing near our dugout looking mortified. His face was bright red, and he was tugging on his baseball cap, trying to hide. "Karen, this is discrimination. You're all against my son because he's smaller than the other kids." Other coach, "Ma'am, your son made good contact. That was actually a nice hit." "Karen, if it was such a nice hit, then why didn't it go over the fence? He deserves a home run." That's when I realized what was really happening. Karen wasn't just upset about one call, she was upset that Jake hadn't hit a home run. She actually thought her son deserved extra bases just because he'd been struggling. "Karen, that's not how baseball works. Jake did great today. He made solid contact and should be proud of himself." "Karen, he's been practicing for months. He deserves better than this." The umpire was trying to be diplomatic, but Karen wasn't having it. "Umpire, your son has been improving all season. That was his best at bat yet." "Karen, improving isn't good enough. These other kids get hits all the time. Jake should get the same treatment." At this point, the league director, who'd been watching from the concession stand, came jogging over. "Director, ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave the field immediately." "Karen, not until my son gets what he deserves. Put him back up to bat." "Director, the game is officially over. Your son played well, but there are no do-overs in baseball." "Karen, this is ridiculous. In recreational league, kids are supposed to have fun and succeed." Jake finally couldn't take it anymore. He walked over from the dugout with tears in his eyes. "Jake, Mom, please stop. I'm okay. It was a good hit." "Karen, no honey, Mommy is fighting for you. You deserve to score a run." "Jake, I just want to go home." That seemed to snap Karen out of whatever trance she was in. She looked around at all the people staring at her parents from both teams, kids, coaches, the umpire. Everyone was dead silent. The league director stepped forward again. "Director, ma'am, this behavior is unacceptable. I'm going to have to file a report about this incident." "Karen, a report? For advocating for my child?" "Director, for disrupting a game and refusing to leave the field when asked by multiple officials." Karen finally started walking back toward the fence, but she had one more outburst. "Karen, this league doesn't care about kids like Jake. You only reward the natural athletes." After she left, I gathered the team together for our usual post-game talk. The kids were pretty shaken up. They'd never seen an adult behave like that at one of their games. Sometimes adults get too emotional about sports. What matters is that you all played hard and supported each other. Jake stayed after everyone else left. "Jake, coach, I'm sorry about my mom. I know I didn't deserve a home run." "Jake, you made the best contact you've had all season. That's what matters. I'm proud of you." The next week, the league director called me. Karen had been suspended from attending games for the rest of the season and would have to take a sportsmanship class before Jake could play next year. "Director," she filed a formal complaint saying we discriminated against Jake by not giving him additional at-bats. "What did you tell her?" "Director, that baseball doesn't work that way, and that her behavior was completely inappropriate regardless of her concerns." Jake finished out the season strong. Without his mom yelling from the stands about every call, he seemed more relaxed. He got his first hit 2 games later, a clean single to left field. When he reached first base, he was grinning from ear to ear. No home run needed,